Hi Board Gamers and welcome back to Not Board Gaming. I'm your host, I'm Mark. Now in today's video we're going to be reviewing this game right here from a solo experience, and this is Monster Hunter World. This is the Wildspire Waste edition of the retail version of Monster Hunter World from Steamforged Games. Now this is a review copy sent to me by Steamforged. Now, unless you've been living under a rock for the last, I don't know, 10, however many years it's been going, you've probably heard of Monster Hunter and all of the associated PC and console games for Monster Hunter. It is this big sprawling game, you know, hundreds of hours long probably, I don't know, where you will take your characters on various quests to go and battle monsters, collect bits, and then sell those bits to upgrade your character so you can fight bigger monsters and better monsters and sell more bits. Ongoing quests, etc. Well, you know, Steamforged obviously got the IP for this, and this came to Kickstarter, I want to say about two and a half years ago, about the same time as Primal the Awakening, and I mentioned that, and I'll mention others as well for a reason. You see, Monster Hunter World is a boss battler. It's an IP-led boss battler, of course, because it's based on the IP, but it is a boss battler, and it's entering a pretty crowded marketplace as well at the moment. So, obviously, when you think of Monster Hunter World, if you've been following board games, you know that Primal the Awakening came out on Kickstarter at a fairly similar time, and it's Primal's release to backers kind of coincides with the retail release of Monster Hunter World. Now this has been out to backers for a while, but this is obviously the retail version that is now available, and it comes in two flavors as well. We have what I've got here, which is the Wildspire Waste, the Wildspire Waste box, and there's also another one as well called the Ancient Forest as well, which comes out as a retail version, and you can buy loads of expansions for it, as etc. But as I say, it's a boss battler in and potentially what's becoming an overcrowded field of some boss battlers. The big kind of other three that I can mention that are similar-ish to this, but not quite the same. We're obviously talking about the granddaddy, the one that started it all, which is Kingdom Death Monster. Then we had Aeon's Trespass, the Odyssey, Aeon's Trespass Odyssey, which is more akin to Kingdom Death Monster than it is to this. And then, of course, as I've already mentioned, we had Primal the Awakening and Monster Hunter World kind of coming to Kickstarter at the same time. So does Monster Hunter World do enough to kind of secure its place amongst the big world of the boss battlers? Well, what we'll do is I'll drop you down to the table, show you briefly how it works. It's not a complex game to learn at all. Briefly how it works, and then what we'll do is come back up and we'll discuss my thoughts on Monster Hunter World and where it sits in this pantheon of kind of boss battlers. Of course, we also have things like Oathsworn as well. I forgot about Oathsworn and really should have mentioned that. So let's drop down to the table, show you briefly how it works, and then what we'll do is we'll come back up and discuss my thoughts on Monster Hunter World from Steamforged Games. So here we can see more or less everything set out now for Monster Hunter World. Not more or less everything that is set out, because I'm actually partway through a game at the moment. I'm sorry about the glare here. It's from the overhead lights, and if I turn that off, then unfortunately we wouldn't be able to see. So yeah, I'm playing two-handed. So if you're playing solo, you're going to play two-handed. And Monster Hunter World, you can play as two parts. You can play as either a quest, or you can play as a single kind of arena-style combat, or you can play as an ongoing campaign. I'm partway through a campaign here right now, and in the campaign what you're going to do is you're going to take your characters on this journey of discovering. It's a book that you're going to go through, and you're going to make different choices in that book, and that's going to give you different items and different things, as well as some Scoutify tokens, and these Scoutify tokens then will dictate which of the three special cards that each monster has goes into their deck when you find and fight the monster. So you've got this evolving thing where you can choose different monsters to fight, so you don't have to follow the same path at all. Now, each game comes with 4 monsters, but that doesn't sound like a lot, but the monsters are going to have different, here we go, different health levels and different things on them, because, as you can see here, they have various quests, etc. So we got the Baroth here, that's Pukai, we got the Baroth here, and we got its main quest. So if you're doing it through the story, it's got this silver star on it, and then we have these 2- and 3-star investigation quests here, and you can see they get a little bit harder as they go through and do slightly different things. So although you're fighting the same monster, it will act in different ways. And down here we got our 2 characters. So I have got the Charge Blade, which is this dude here. And let's just show you There we go. You can see the miniature just there. And I've also got the, what's it called? Anyway, the one with the big gun, I can't remember the name of it, it'll come to me in a second. The one with the big gun, there we go, and that one is going up there. So I've got kind of a melee and also a range fighter as well. And you can start off with some equipment that you'll get to upgrade as the game goes on. I'll just pull you down to this down here so we can show you the equipment. Okay, so down here is the equipment. I have upgraded, I think, one piece so far, maybe two, yeah? So I've got down here the main weapon, which is the steel assault weapon here. And then I've got an alloy helm, so I've upgraded that as well, which is an alloy helm. These are all for different kind of protections, either armor, these have nothing unfortunately, or some form of elemental protection. So this is kind of your equipment, and you're going to upgrade that as the game goes on. How do you upgrade it? Well, you kill monsters and you collect bits from monsters and from quests, and then you can take it to your forge in between these quests, and you can fashion new items for yourself. Okay, here we have our stamina deck here, well, our action cards here, and at any one point you can have, you can have 5 in your hand. And then what happens is when you take an action, be that a defensive or an attacking action, you're going to lay a card down on here, face up or face down, basically. When it gets to the end, you're tired, okay? However, at the end of each of your turns, you will get to remove one card from there. Ways that you can actually remove more cards from there by having potions and maybe certain actions on cards, but you're going to move a card from there. So you've got to think about in the game, kind of playing them and also going for a rest, or I want to start thinking about clearing some of these before I go in for an attack, because I may want to play more cards. And as we go on here, you can see the board, it kind of goes up. Various icons on here, but the main one is the ones that you play here. So this tells you how many of your damage cards you're going to, here we go, these are the damage cards, nope, these are the damage cards. How many of the damage cards, if you land that blow, is going to happen. So if you look at this one here, the one that you can see, this would be 1 damage card, or this one would be 2 damage cards. And what happens if you do a successful attack is you would take over 2 of these cards, and then you would take that amount off the monster, depending on what's on the cards, 1, 2, 3, and even more, as you start upgrading your weapons, off the monster, mindful of if the monster's got, any armor or such. That's what you're going to do. You're going to move around the board. You're going to find the best place to attack. You're going to strike those attacks, and then you're going to potentially back away and try and recover. You see, at some point, what's going to happen is you're going to go through all these damage cards, which means your weapon is blunt. Doesn't really work for a gun, but your weapon is blunt. So what you're then going to have to do is you're going to have to take a sharpening action, so take a rest so you can sharpen your weapon, put all of your damage cards back in one pile. That means your weapon is ready again, but you've got to factor that into how you kind of move around the board. And you're going to take it in kind of turns, okay? So each hunter will get one of these tokens, randomly drawn. We've got 7 and an 8 here, but when they take their turn, what happens is that's it, you flip it down. When both of them are flipped down, the next one to take a turn flips both of them back up, and these will switch between, or can switch between the characters. So, it's the highest one that go first, but, at some point what would happen is, say if it started on the charge blade, it could move over to the other character, basically, at some point in the game. So that can change. But it's not like you actually get a go all the time, and I'll explain why. You see, on a monster's turn, he's got this deck of cards, and if you look at the back of the card here, it's going to tell you little bits about what's happening. First of all, the type of attack it's going to do, and that kind of attack can be really, really useful, because if you look on some of these monsters cards, so where's the right one? It's this one here. You got these various things on here, and if you look here, it says that it's got this type, it's a head here, right? Okay, so which is, we know is the next attack. If this is broken, so if I've placed 4 damage tokens, and that's not how many times you damaged it, that's how many times you put break tokens on there, then what's going to happen is this is going to come into play here. And that means that for my next attack, because I know this particular one is broken, I know it's that kind of attack, therefore any kind of movement that's on that card is going to be reduced by 1. There we go, and you've also got the armor on there as well. So any hits I give to the front of the monster for its head is going to be reduced by 2, unless I've got something that goes through that. It's got 4 break tokens. When it's broken, it would give me that. So, as I say, we know that the next one is going to be that, and this means it's going to move towards the closest fighter. But look, there's another symbol with an eye somewhere. Let's find it. There we go. And that one, if that one came up, it would move to the furthest away. So then we flip the card over, and this is how the monster is going to act. Okay. So here it's going to do a skull slam, which is one of its special cards, I believe. It may not be. And it's going to move the closest, right? Okay, it's going to move 6 towards the closest. So we're going to do that first, all right? And this is the first here it's going to go, all right? So we're going to move 6 towards me. Now what it's going to do, it's just going to keep on moving towards me, okay? So move 6. Oh, no, it's not. It's going to move 2 backwards afterwards. So it's going to attack me for 6 first if I'm in range, okay? And what it says here, sorry, that was wrong then. What it says here is if I'm in a range of 1, it's going to do 6 damage to whoever's in front. Well, look here. If we look here at the monster, I'm actually 2 away. So it's not actually going to get me, which is good, basically. Okay, it would do 6 damage to anybody in front, and it would also give them a stun token. Here, what you have here is a dodge amount, right? Okay, so if I look in my cards, and at the top of my cards, they've all got this. We're going to take one more. They've all got this up here, which is the dodge amount. Okay. So what I could do is, if I was in range, I could play that until there's a total of 4 on there, which is its dodge value. So I could play those 2 cards face down on my board, and I would be able to move 4 away. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how I would dodge it. But if I'd not done that, and that monster was there, okay, then what it would do is it would carry out its attack, okay? So first of all, it's going to attack anybody in the front. And why the front? I don't know if it's picking up on here, but you've got quadrants on here. You've got diagonal quadrants at the front, at the back, and at the side, basically. So that tells you where the monster's going to go, where it's going to attack. And we look here, and it's going to attack with a skull slam. Anybody that's 1 in front, if we look at these, that one is actually, where is it, a range 2. Some of them will move first and then attack. Some of them will attack first and then move, okay? So here we go. So it's going to do a 6 damage to me now, which is not great, but bear in mind I would not have taken this, okay? So I only have kind of one armor, I think, at the moment. Yeah, 1 armor. So I would have to take 5 damage. Now my character is currently on 3 because he's already taken 5 damage. They start with 8. So actually it would have knocked me out here unless I dodged it. But I'm not, because the monster was over there. So it would do is it would attack me. It would give me a stun. There's various kind of conditions, etc. that the monster will do. And then what it would do is it would move away. On this particular card, it would move backwards too. However, remember, we've broken this monster, okay, and it's that kind of symbol, which means it's just going to move away 1. It always stays facing as much as possible the whoever's its target. So this is the one that's closest to it. All right, so that would move back there. So had it been there, it would have attacked me and then backed off, and you can see that the monster is actually moving, kind of doing stuff. Now, what you do for your turn, you react to the monster's turn. It tells you on its card, excuse me, how many cards you can play and how many turns you're going to have. And you do this alternately. And that's this here, okay? So if you look here, it says that one of us is going to go. So one of my characters is going to go, but they can play up to 3 cards, all right? So, say, for example, it was this guy here that was going to play, which is my charge blade. I now get to choose which cards I want to do on my turn. I can move 1, so I'm going to move 1 to the front. Boom. Okay. And then I could issue some damage to them. Okay. So let's have a look here. That's there. That's going to add 2 to me. Okay. So bear in mind, you know, I'm not playing it fully through. So let's say I played this card first. All right. This would allow me to move 1 and then do 1 damage. So we'll do that. We'll take a card. Then we're going to actually play this card because it invokes part of his special abilities for the charge blade here. And that's another one with a damage card. So we'll take another damage card and we'll do that. But if I look at the charge blade special rules, okay, it says here that when you play an attack card with a kind of blue milk bottle, you draw 1 for every white one face up in the attack, and then discard the rightmost face up attack card with the white symbol on your board. So if you look down at my board down here, here's the blue one that I placed, and because of my ability, I've also got 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to draw another 3 damage cards, then discard that particular card. Let's move all those right up. So we dealt 2, but I got 3 more to draw. Okay, so we'll draw 1, 2, 3. That means I'm going to do 5 lots of damage here. So we're going to top these up. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage. However, if we look at the monster here, we're attacking the front because I'm at the front. It's got a 2 shield, if you like. So therefore, it's only going to do 4 damage. Okay, so we take the dial, which is this lovely looking dial for the monster. Here we go, and he's on 33. That would take him down to 29. Okay. There we go. So the monster's currently on 29. I think he started on 65, this particular monster. Okay, now that's my go done, because if you remember on that card, what it meant is that only one of us was going to take a turn here. So when your card is done, you're going to get a card. Sorry, when your turn is done, you're going to get a card from the timer deck, and that's this here, okay? And some of these have different things on them. Some of them are exactly the same. If that timer deck ever runs out, and each quest will tell you how many cards are in the timer deck, then you've lost it. Flip your hunter token face down, it says, so we'll do that, okay? Discard 1 attack card from the rightmost slot of your stamina board. That's good. That means I've now got 2 slots available. Remember, it was filled up, but then my special ability allowed me to discard 1. And then also my, you discard 1 at the end of your turn. So that's good. I've now got two slots left on there. Discard any number of attack cards from your hand, so you can discard and then build back up to 5. And then draw attack cards until you're in 5. And your hunter suffers from an affliction. There we go. You can see the 2 lightning. And that's the thing about these cards, is they will kind of come along sometimes and be very nice to you, but most of the time they're going to come along and kick you in the ass. Now, I've had my 1 go, which means that it's now back to the monster for the next one. We know he's coming for the closest one, because here we go. We've got this one, another one of these here. Oh, we've got a mud shake that's happening here, and he's going to do elemental damage to the closest one. And again, what's going to happen is that only one player is going to get to go and play up to 3 cards. Now, you notice I only played 2, but that's because I only had space for 2 in my stamina deck. So now it would be back to the monster, but you can see, and they would take their turn, then me. But these can be different. You can see you've got 2s on there. So that's how it would go, back and forth until your team has been knocked down a total of 3 times, or you defeated the monster. Once you defeated the monster, you're going to gather up everything that you get to win at the end of the quest. And you're going to go back and potentially spend that in a shop where you can upgrade your armor. And each character has got their own. So we got the Forge reference for the. Oh no, it's just the armor Forge. That yeah. We got the heavy bowgun and the charge blade there. The armor is the same for whoever it is, and of course they get different weapons as well. So you do that. There's other things you can do, like you can take days out, etc., rest days, but in reality you're going to be doing that and fighting monsters, changing the monsters that you fight, changing how difficult they are. They will have different things into the deck. The timer deck will have different cards into there, and the aim of the game is just to keep doing that. So it's a relatively quick game to play, to teach, and a relatively easy game to play. There's things like, obviously, different styles of terrain on the map. So we have water there, we have rocks, we have bushes, etc., which kind of change the play style for you. And your main thing is going to be moving across these nodes for your movement, making sure the monster's always coming towards you when they're moving, and then trying to battle, back off and battle again until you defeat the monster. And there we go. Look, that's a pretty brief kind of overview on how Monster Hunter World by Steamforged Games works, because obviously there's more rules than what I've gone through. I haven't discussed things like the palicos and how the story progresses and how the various quests progress, etc. But you get the idea. It is a relatively straightforward game to play in terms of the fact that your ability to go is based, you're reacting to the monster's movements, if you like, and how the monster goes to find out how many of you can react. So your positioning on the board, you've got to keep an eye on kind of what the potential next card could be. Is it going to go towards the nearest hunter or the furthest away hunter? But once you get into the flow of the game, it moves quite quickly, and it can be pretty challenging. I played about, I don't know, I'll say 5 or 6 games of this now. It's more than that, probably 7 or 8 games of this now. So I'm a fair way into my kind of campaign, and there is a a little campaign sheet that you can get as well, that you will keep track of your what your kind of your hunters are doing, what they've collected, etc., which will help you obviously track where you are and track your ability to buy stuff in the from the forges and upgrade your characters, because that is going to be a key thing, is the upgrade of your character's abilities. Because when you get a new weapon, it's potentially going to add new damage cards into your damage deck, so you get the ability to hurt the monster more and do more things. You will replace cards in your deck as well by doing that, so you know your it's kind of deck construction, if you like. You know, choosing which weapon will choose which cards go into your deck. So if you've got more weapons, then what you can do is actually, you know, choose the right weapon or the right armor for the monster that you're facing, so it becomes more customizable that way. And I really like that. I think where they get the things where it works for me the best is the fact it's a relatively straightforward game to play, and you can set it up and play through a quest in about an hour or so. So it gives you that kind of arcade style hit. If you're looking for that from a boss battle games. We all know that some of the bigger games like your Oathsworns or your Kingdom Death Monsters or your Aeon's Trespass, they're going to take a long time to get to a point where you think, okay, I just want to put that down. Where Monster Hunter kind of hits the nail on the head is, as I say, it gives you a low overhead rule set with the ability to set it up fairly quickly and with the ability to play it fairly quickly. So you could set this up, teach it, and play a full fight to 2, 3 or 4 people, or even on your own, basically, in about 90 minutes. In reality, once you know the game, you're setting it up, you're playing it, you're putting away within an hour if you're just doing one quest or one fight. And that's what you want from this. You want that kind of arcade hit. But that's kind of also where it falls down against some of the other games that I mentioned. You know, obviously your KDM, your Aeon's Trespass, it's not trying to compete with those. It's not having that big grand scope adventure. You know, KDM can take, God knows, so many days to complete KDM. Basically, if you're doing a full Lantern Year campaign, it's a big, long game where a lot of focus is on that kind of town phase, if you like, and building up the various bits that you can do in the town phase, and then going on the hunt phase, and then finding the monster. Whereas in Monster Hunter World, that hunt phase is a lot more pared down, if you like, and it's quite not linear, but you know, you're looking through the book, you're making decisions, you're going through your time deck by getting rid of time cards, maybe picking up some bits and bobs along the way, and then you get to fight the monster. So it tells you a little story as you go through there. Aeon's Trespass, similar thing. It's a lot more of an involved game than this. I say this, the one that this is. No, Oathsworn, definitely a lot more of an involved game where that kind of story bit in between the big fights is as important as the actual big fights themselves. So this kind of aligns itself closer to Primal the Awakening. But I think that Primal the Awakening has got more to it. And I'll be doing a review of Primal shortly. I just need to play it a few more times. Because you have this whole element of kind of card play in Primal the Awakening, which you don't really have here. You're setting up your dashboards and then you're working your fighters from that. Now, that preference comes down to whether you like that level of kind of what you do in Primal the Awakening, which is where you choose a weapon. That tells you how many of each colour card that you got, so it's deck curation, if you like. Whereas this is a little bit less that. You're just going to choose the weapons, kind of build out your damage deck, and that's it. The other thing about this, which potentially might put some people off, is the stamina rules. It doesn't take long, you know, maybe a couple of attacks and a defense, and you fill up your stamina board. So you've got to build that into your mindset that it's not bang, bang, bang. Now, they're constantly updating the rules, and I know they updated the rules for Iceborne, which was their second Kickstarter, or their Kickstarter after this for Monster Hunter World, and those rules are available online, which give you a little bit more scope in terms of what you can do. I believe you can remove, whereas in the original rules, it was just the right card off your dashboard, off your stamina board. Then what you can do now with the Iceborne rules, and that can be applied to this, is you can remove any card off there, and if they're face-down cards, you can remove 2 of them. So that does give you a little bit more scope, but the rules I've written kind of make it a very tight game in terms of stamina, and it can be a little bit frustrating with that. It's part of the puzzle, I absolutely get it, but it can be a little bit frustrating with the stamina, that before long your board is kind of filled up and you maybe don't have enough movement to get out of the way as well, and you're just going to get kind of, you know, attacked by the monster because of the way that the cards come out there. So you've got to be mindful of that stamina. There are ways around it, and they're making improvements all the time, but it can be a little bit of hamstringing thing, as it restricts what you can do. But you know, the more you get to know your characters, the more you upgrade your characters, and the more you get to know how the game plays, it becomes less of an issue. So yeah, it's it's a if you're looking for that arcade style hit, then this is potentially what you're looking for. You can get this to the table and play it a lot quicker than the others. For me, it just lacks that depth of the others, and I say the closest I can put it to is Primal Awakening, and I prefer Primal Awakening to Monster Hunter World. It's not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination, but it does have some flaws. The stamina system, the seemingly linear progression of your characters. You see, I've talked about these forgers here, okay? And we know that all the armor costs exactly the same, so you can buy whatever armor you want, no matter who you are. But all the weapons, okay? There are different weapons on there, but their upgrade cost is exactly the same for all the fighters, no matter what, kind of on the same level. Which kind of, for me, just feels a little bit too on rails, if you like. Yes, you can share resources amongst the characters, which is a good thing, okay? So, you can take slightly different paths. But I would like to have seen, the heavy bowgun next bowgun cost something different to what the charge blade weapon cost, because that would mean that you're having this dichotomy about, right, which monster are we going to fight now? I really want this particular weapon, but I need X, Y, and Z to get it. Whereas, the charge blade might want a particular weapon and want to go a different path and fight a different monster. But by having them cost exactly the same as you go through the levels of them, it just takes away some of that. And that would have been, having that level of flexibility would have been really, really good. A few other niggles as well. One of them is the rulebook, absolutely fine. No problem at all with the rulebook. There's no real player aids, so you've got the back of the book, which is going to show you the flow of the game. But when it comes to things like tokens, so you get these various kind of condition tokens, etc. But they don't come out all the time, and so therefore you don't know them, and to find them, they're not. It shows you what the token is on the back of the rulebook. It says, "Oh look, stun token." It doesn't tell you what it does. What it does for you, what it does for the monster, because they act differently on you and the monster. So you've got to go leafing through the book to find out exactly what the stun tokens do. That could have been really overcome very, very easily with just the inclusion of a player aid, which would have just gone through that. Now, of course, you look online and people have created player aids, and I get that, but I just think it's, it wouldn't have cost that much more to chuck a few player aids in there, which you've got the tokens on there. It's not in the box, so therefore it becomes a little bit, easy to miss. The other thing to think about as well is that you are getting 4 monsters in this, whether it's the Wildspire Waste or the Ancient, whatever it was called. You're getting 4 monsters, so you're going to be battling those same 4 monsters over and over. Obviously, you look at Kingdom Death Monster, and you look at Aeon's Trespass, and you look at Oathsworn. Certainly in Oathsworn, you just get all of the various types of monsters with the game, and you very rarely fight the same monster twice in Oathsworn. KDM, obviously for expansions, you can get different monsters, but Aeon's Trespass Odyssey, lots of different monsters. Primal Awakening, I got the all-in pledge, so I bought everything for it. But even so, has got more than this. And what I'm finding is there are minor tweaks in terms of difficulty, in terms of what the monster can do as you go through the various levels, and which card they're going to put into their deck. But it does start to get repetitive. To get the most, you're going to have to possibly get this and then get the other base set and then get some of the expansions for it. And it becomes very expensive to do that, because I think this is around about £90 to £100 just for this. So 4 monsters isn't a lot to actually go for. And I would have liked to see a bit more variety in terms of what they're doing here. Maybe some smaller monsters with tokens instead of the big plastic that they're using here, with the option to buy the plastic if you want. That would have been good to see, but no, it feels a little bit restricted, and I get the model, I understand why they're doing it that way. It just feels a little bit restricted for me, and as I say, it starts to become not rinse and repeat, but you start to see the same thing over and over again. You're just battling harder versions of it. So overall, I like it. I like Monster Hunter World. It's going to scratch a different itch for those of you who are looking for a more involved monster, kind of boss battling game. The campaign scenarios, relatively rudimentary in terms of what you can do in between them. There's more depth certainly in Oathsworn and in Kingdom Death Monster and Aeon's Trespass Odyssey. There's more depth in Primal Awakening, because you've got that dichotomy of which cards you're going to use. So it is the more streamlined of all of them, but it does suffer a little bit for being streamlined. That accessibility is great, but in reality, there's probably just not enough meat on the bones to keep me fully engaged through an entire campaign of this. Whereas, with Primal Awakening and all the others, I really am engaged. I'm growing my characters. I want to see what I can get next. Want to see all the different types of monsters I can do. Yeah, so it's good, but in terms of what's out there at the moment, it doesn't quite hit the mark against measuring up against the other four for me. Now, your opinion may vary, your mileage may vary. You may want this kind of easy to teach, kind of relatively straightforward campaign, quick to play, low rules overhead game, and if that's the case, that's absolutely fine. And then you're going to have a blast with Monster Hunter World. But for me, it probably is not quite there yet, and I think I'd have to spend a lot more money to flesh this out into what I want it to be. So making that comparison to Primal is a little bit unfair because I did spend a lot of money on Primal, obviously, and get everything that was for it. So I'd have to spend a lot more money on this, but I still think, even if I look at the kind of the core experience of what I get from a game like Primal and what I get from Monster Hunter World, it's not quite there for me. I think timing is a thing. I think cost is a thing on this as well. I think it's slightly expensive for what it's providing you. And of course, most of that cost is going to come down to the big four monsters that you've got, and of course, paying for the IP and the development time as well. But it's not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. It's a pretty good game, and there's nothing wrong with not being the best game out there because it will scratch a very different itch. Not every game has to be top of the list. It can't be top of the list. So if you know what you're getting into, then you're probably going to have a very good time with it. For me, it's not quite there for me. And there's other games I would choose over Monster Hunter World. So there we go. I hope that kind of gave you an indication on my thoughts on Monster Hunter World from Steamforged Games. As I say, it's a fine game. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I just find it a little bit too restricted and too linear-ish for my likes. Your mileage may well vary. So my name's Mark. This is Not Board Gaming. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out our other videos. And one final thought, if you can't find anyone else to play with, then there's nothing wrong with playing with yourselves. Until next time, bye-bye.